Hey there, Thomas.
Hi, Elizabeth.
How are you doing today?
Uh, I'm doing all right. It's good to see you. It always puts a smile on my face, so that's a nice thing.
Well, thank you. I enjoy talking to you too. And
Yeah.
I have to say, for being so early there, you look pretty on top of your game and ready to go here this morning.
The secret is I put coffee in a pickle jar, and this is it's super good for digestion and it has a special flavor to it.
Ooh,
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah. Um, cool. So we've been doing the Artist Way together, and
Hmm.
this is our first check-in of saying, what's this process like? How's it going? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? What's your experience? And I think a cool thing is that we're at different places. Like I've almost finished with it, and you started a little while back, and you're where you're at, and that's the cool thing. We can work on this together at different paces. And I think
Exactly.
that's kind of a beauty about entering into a creative exploration healing space. We're just here discussing the impacts of um, essentially writing and purging in a way. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it's funny because like you had said, you're further along, but I had started this at one point and then just totally dropped the ball, as we both know. But I started it again, and and for whatever reason, I think I was in a better place to start it this time than I was before. And I'm not. I think it's just. I'm not even really sure, but for some reason my head's more in the game, and so I got a lot more out of it this time around. And so I'm
Right.
kind of excited to talk about today the kind of on the recovering of the sense of safety and that sort of thing.
Cool. Well, let's check in. How are you? How's
Okay,
life?
it's going pretty good. I started a new exercise deal and trying to kind of add a little bit of more of that in my life and that sort of thing. So that's been feeling good.
Nice.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so I'll be pretty strong before you know it. So you won't be winning any hand downs.
Okay, cool. So we can have an international wrestling match at this point in time.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I got to say, as far as like being fit, I'm almost 60 and everything
Hmm.
keeps falling. And in my mind, I look like a hot, fit 25-year-old gay guy, right? But in reality, I've got man boobs and a pot belly.
Well, there you go.
And so I'm working on getting rid of the man boobs and pot belly.
Yeah. I've gotta do some of my work too because all my muscles that used to be on top of my arms are now underneath. So no more bat wings.
You got
Time to
bat
alleviate
wings
those.
and
Yeah.
I got man boobs. All right.
So that's a good
Well,
way to start out.
welcome to your 50s.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh
They
my
don't
gosh.
tell us that.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah. So I like this artist way. Like I'm feeling there's an impact for me of the consistency. I think is the most important thing. And there's two things that I guess I'm doing on a daily basis, or we do, is to
Hmm.
read out loud those basic principles and also write the morning pages.
Hmm.
And like for me personally, for years, I thought that the idea of like talking positively to yourself was kind of a waste of time.
Egocentric or something.
Um, I think it came from being around people in the spiritual world who thought that speaking always to the positive or spinning something in the positive was actually
Hmm.
doing something. And I
Hmm.
and I don't believe that. Like I like to call a spade a spade. Um, and so that I had resistance to that. But now that for a couple months, I've been saying these things every morning out loud, twice actually, I feel something changing. And it's different than putting a positive spin on something that isn't, basically not being authentic, versus, you know, sharing, you know, some of these principles like creativity is the natural order of life. Life is energy, pure creative energy. I think that's an awesome way of looking at things.
Mm-hmm. You know, I have to say, periodically your audio is going out. I don't know if it's on your end or mine, but
Okay.
periodically I'm not hearing you, so I didn't hear a pretty big piece of what you were just saying.
Oh, okay. It was that bad. Well, what I was saying, I just gave all the answers to world peace.
Yeah.
And healing. And so,
no, we'll never know.
I mean, if you missed it, you missed it. I'm sorry.
Well, then we'll just start from where we were, huh? So you were
Yeah.
saying about kind of getting to your creativity, and I heard that piece.
I was just talking, I was just sharing, like, we have these basic tools we're working with, the morning pages, which is a purging, right? Because we're just dumping stuff out of our mind and the impacts of that. And then we're also, like, daily, we're reading these basic principles and ideas, and that repetitive nature of saying something over and over again on a regular basis. I'm just curious, like, how's that working for you? What are your struggles? What's happening?
You know, in this chapter, it really kind of dug into some vulnerabilities where I realized certain things I didn't. And one of the things is the negative blurts that you'll have in trying to flip it for an affirmation. So I've noticed when a blurt comes into my mind, taking that negative blurt, tossing it aside and flipping it around to something that's true. I'm finding that that's helping quite a bit. When you started doing the morning pages, did you find yourself, before you even started writing, like having some apprehensiveness about writing, or like I found myself like I'd start to write and then I'm like worried about punctuation, worried about sentence structure. I had to let that stuff go, and then I got stuck on, well, what should I be writing about? What can I write about that? Because that's using a lot of swearing, you know. And now it's a little bit, I think I was nervous to put what's up here down on a piece of paper.
Right.
But,
yeah. I don't know if I ever experienced that before, because I kind of took what she said, like, this is a dump, a mind dump.
Yes.
Don't ever read it. You're never going to share it with anyone. And I was like, okay, cool. And like my pages are, like, I'm opening up to random pages. You couldn't even read them. If someone wanted to read them, you couldn't.
Sure.
But I did notice a process of, I tried this like 5 years ago when I was in a bad place, and I filled up a small notebook of like, fuck you, I fucking hate you, I want to kill myself, why would you do this to me? Pages and pages and pages of just anger. And it was a different process. Like I was processing really deep-seated stuff.
Sure.
And it was really refreshing just to get it out of me. And then be like, oh my God, I'd go back and look and go, I just write 3 pages of, I hate you. Why would you do this to me? How dare you? Over and over again. And every variation of that.
Sure.
So, yeah, I think, yeah, we got to move through that thing of letting it happen, right?
Yeah. So how were you, and if I'm skipping too far ahead, let me know, but
Mm.
how were you with the one assignment of, first we had to do the blurts and then write down affirmations, but in part of it, we had to discuss the monsters in our life. How did you do with that?
Um, well, let me go back. Uh, well, why don't, okay, I got to go back to week 1 here and find out what I wrote down. Friends, the 3 monsters. Oh, it took me back to, it just really showed that being in a Roman Catholic school really
Mhm.
screwed me up.
Sure.
Because my 3 enemies, and I kind of just let it out, were Sister Ruth, who was a voice and music teacher, uh, priests. I just wrote priest down because a couple of them abused me, and Mr. DeMarco, who was the 7th grade teacher, who it was just a bad experience from
Sure.
grade 3 to age 8. I lived in Monsterville.
Sure.
Um,
Was it hard for you to, because I found myself, I was like, when it said to list your monsters, I was like, there was something that was, for me, was kind of hard about, well, probably because it's vulnerability, uh, but picking the monsters and then some of them I didn't even know their names, so I made up a name. In fact, I think you helped me come up with the name Pig Shit for one of them a
oh,
while
really?
back. I don't know if you remember that, but I'm pretty sure you're the one who gave me that name.
Right. So he was like
Or the
Cher. He just went
person,
by
not me.
one name.
What's that?
He was a bit like Cher. He just went by one name.
Yeah,
All right. Awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Um, how was it for you? Like you just mentioned 2 words like vulnerability of putting it on paper, and I see right now in your throat there's a bit of a swallow.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, I struggled with it because I had separated myself so far from that, from the monsters, and same as you, my monsters were my abusers, and so I don't think I think I separate as far as calling them by name, and some of them I couldn't remember the names of, but I found myself having things creep up that I think I hadn't maybe thought of in years and years and years. So when I started out, I thought it was painfully hard. In fact, I would leave my notebook and kind of walk away and say, basically, screw this, I'm not doing it. And then I'm like, well, no, you need to turn back around and go back and face it. So I went back and for whatever reason, when I first started out, it was tough. But then as I got going, I felt it was almost like pouring out something that I had never put voice to. And it's, even though I have to say that assignment was hard and it made me think about a lot of things, it also helped me to process some things that I didn't realize were still there.
Yeah. It's
Because
amazing how
typically,
these things linger,
yeah, yeah, because I
and
can talk about abuse all day long,
right.
but it's funny how you can separate yourself from certain things. Like people would say, not to go on to the abuse stuff, but people would say, um, how do you feel about your abusers? And I'd be like, I don't feel anything.
Right.
That was, I'd just be like, I don't feel anything, nothing. And
Yeah.
and then like the therapist, if I tell him that, would be like, well, that's something to notice.
Right.
And I'm okay, but this kind of I realized it kind of probably tripped me up for about a day. And but I was in that, I wasn't, that didn't bother me because I knew that it was just things that I needed to kind of let roll through my mind and process a little bit. And I think the writing down and saying why they were a monster, and maybe, you know, using my own words to put voice of how that affected me, what they said, what they did, and these types of things really kind of brought me to a different level, if that makes
Right.
sense. Mhm.
It makes a lot of sense. You know, I really found that there's a process of exhausting these things, and
Mhm.
and I myself, and I think I may echo a lot of experience of survivors and humans. We're really good at avoiding and deflecting things, and you know, we fool ourselves
Mhm.
because we can talk about other people's abuse and put on this mask of, oh, I'm here to help you. Often
Um,
we're using that as a tool to avoid our own processing. And
yeah, practice what you preach is what was going through my head when I was kind of struggling with it.
yeah, so yeah, let's take that opportunity. I'd like to know who your monsters were and what you wrote about them. Can you share that with me?
Ooh. Ooh. Okay. Um, I'm going to be careful on the names only because I don't want lawsuit on my hands. Because unfortunately, sometimes that
Right.
can come back. So I'll use one was, I'll just say, was a baby daycare provider. So I had put, let's see, I put yelling, shame, locking the 4-year-old in a room, made to feel, well, okay, I'm going to get real here. So made to feel dirty for pooping pants, laughing at lunch, being sent to a room and locked in the room. And so those were some memories from that piece. And then there was a man by the name of Kevin, who would tell me that was all mine are the abusers. So you make me do this to you. No one would understand what we have, you know, the type of manipulation and mind games. One, I couldn't remember the name, so I called him motherfucker. Sorry.
Right. It's
Um,
okay.
so that was a person that was laughing at me as they molested and made me disassociate, disconnect. So I said they stole memories, they stole my innocence. There was Danny, where the questions of why would you do this, waking up to him doing things, and I don't know how what do you say?
Graphic.
Yeah, I because
I
I don't want
say
to.
no. I say share, like for sure.
Okay,
Like we're not here to pretend. We're here to like
sure.
say.
So waking up and finding him trying to put my own hand down my pants, just crazy mind manipulation. The other one was named Pig Shit. uh, Created fear, locking a door, trying to run away. There was Donnie, who put the fear in me that I was going to die, that I was dirty, um, gave me the feelings that there was absolutely no life ahead of me, that all people hate me, that I'll never amount to anything. And then there was a former partner of mine that would say, "You're crazy, you should kill yourself," you know, ask you if you were having emotions, have you been drinking, which I hadn't been, but those were the monsters, the ones that I felt really took things and imprinted falseness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like that word imprint because
Mm-hmm.
that's what happens. It's like we're this blank slate, and like our mind body is this computer hard drive, and then people just start programming it, and then that's our lives. It unfolds out of that, and like those imprints still exist today. I can see it as you read. And
Yes.
like, what's that feel like in you in those moments?
Wow, vulnerability. It's funny. I can feel it in my body. I can feel it, so I'm learning more about how it's stuck in your system. But I would say how it feels is there's part of me that, even though I know it needs to be said, you start to feel like you're almost shrinking, like, gosh, should I be saying this out loud? Should I be, is saying this going to be upsetting for you? What's your reaction going to be, and that sort of thing. But there's also a part of me that knows that some of that stuff is just nonsense.
Which stuff?
Well, like the fear of telling you this, that somehow maybe you're going to go, ooh, she's kind of
Right.
really screwed up here. And that sort of thing, that thought goes in my mind, but then I realize, no, you come from the same type of background. So you probably have empathy rather than judgment.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess, yeah, it does.
So can I just share something that I thought was really interesting?
Yeah.
And I'm just being an observer. And when I say this, I'm speaking about us as humans. Like this is kind of a universal thing because I notice it myself.
Sure.
I posed a question: how do you feel?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a physical experience, right? It's emotional. And
Sure.
the answer was all about the intellectual process.
Ooh, okay.
I wonder how someone's going to feel. It was very like curious about the past or the future. And like, we're so good at getting caught in our mind and not experiencing sensation and feeling. And you mentioned you were starting to do the work with Dr. I forget his name.
Van der Kolk, that's a traumatic studies program.
Yeah, and who's the guy who wrote the book about it's your body knows.
The body keeps score.
Yeah, the body keeps the score.
That's Bessel.
Yeah, like how do we feel is a physical thing, and we answer it in our mind, and that shows how that imprinting that happens. Yes. It gets imprinted into our muscle memory somehow, into our core of our being, which is this crazy weave of mind and spirit, and then mind and body, and then consciousness arises out of it, right?
Sure.
And then because it's imprinted, it affects us our whole lives. And instead we use our mind to try to solve a problem. And as opposed to just experiencing it.
Sure. So I need to, okay. So if I were to say my body, then it would be like a burning in my chest. I feel like if I were to go further into it, I may catch myself getting emotional. So feeling some swelling of the emotions kind of trying to come up in that sort of thing. And even I noticed too, sometimes talking about that, feeling a sense of dizziness and maybe tingling in the face and arms. That's something that I work with on a therapist with. And it's funny that you bring this up because she's constantly saying, okay, where do you feel it in your body? Let's make the mind body connection,
Yeah.
and then because I can disassociate at times, that's, I know that's kind of my cue to go, okay, this is okay, but step back a little bit.
Yeah, it's truly okay,
Yeah.
And this first chapter was about recovering a sense of safety, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm finding over and over again that being vulnerable and embracing vulnerability is part of feeling safe.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a paradox. We have to feel super unsafe to feel safe.
Yeah. And it's funny because I can tell people this all day long, but I didn't realize till doing this that there was still work to do on my end. Yeah, and so yeah, you're right. It's that whole needing to allow yourself to feel, allowing yourself to think. I mean, all this.
Yeah. Yeah. Like safety and vulnerability go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I love that when you say I still have work to do on this, and
Mm-hmm.
as do I.
Sure.
And it just becomes like this spiral of healing, and if you continue to grow and evolve as a human, um, out of victimhood into survivorhood into perhaps stewardship or something different.
Mm-hmm.
We're always working with this stuff in different ways. It becomes more subtle and we navigate it differently. And it starts with going deep into it and like swearing tears, snots, like letting the baby child inside express itself.
Yeah. And I do have to say that this chapter, doing the monsters and writing all this, probably is the first time that I've gone from either not feeling anything to suddenly having the feeling of, you guys are really assholes. I mean, how could you do this? And kind of connecting to that anger piece that I don't think, I mean, I'm sure it came out in other ways. Um, but I never had this like feeling of any kind, and I towards them. It was more of a complete disconnect, and that this assignment actually made me feel a little bit of, how do I say it? A little bit of a caring piece for the inner child, maybe the one, the child that experienced it, and then almost like an anger, like, wow, this is horrible crap. This is, but I also was able to remind myself too that, hey, you're not that little person anymore. You're the adult. And
Right.
God help the person that would try and do that now. I mean, and
Yeah.
there's, so I think that, you know, that piece helped me to feel, in a weird sense, almost more safe, because even though I'd say to myself in past years, well, I'm safe now, nobody can do anything to me, there was still, I realized there's still some lingering things that maybe keep me from feeling safe 100%. So it gave me the opportunity to not only deal with that, but to also say, okay, you don't get to have that hold on me, and we're going to make some changes. And now I'm stronger. I know more. I mean, I know how to shoot. These
You mean a
kinds of
gun or shoot
Yes.
bullshit?
Well, that too.
Okay. Right.
In fact, I'm really good at that. So, okay, well, you haven't gotten in about your monsters.
Well, I just
Like how
want
I
to,
did the shift there and put it on you. Okay, we can stick on me.
yeah. You were talking about like the inner child and stuff, and like this whole thing of safety is
Mhm.
is us as adults who can, like, most of the time, or maybe not even most of the time, who sometimes can like say, actually, this is a safe situation, but in this moment, I feel like fighting or running, right?
Yes.
But if we're truthful, like, I'll give you an example. The other day, I'm renting a room from someone when I stay here in Australia, and she was having a gathering here. And I have
Mhm.
social anxieties that just exist in me. And I
Yeah.
don't like meeting new people. And I don't like meeting new people and then exiting. I feel like I have to stick around and be something, right? And I hate it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I, uh, I kind of made an alternative plan so I didn't have to be here to go out to spend an evening with my friend. And like, there was this whole thing in me, this battle of how do I avoid this moment?
Wow.
And I made a plan to, go. So I could avoid meeting 5 new people. And they were coming here to sing mantra, and they were coming here to do stuff that I enjoy. But something in me was
Sure.
like, I don't want to do this. So
I do that too.
yeah. So I made this exit strategy. And
Mhm.
and as I was leaving, the guitar player came in, and it actually was this super easy, comfortable thing. And as I'm going, because my friend was here to pick me up, who like I knew would be safe, I was
Uh-huh.
like, wow, like these things still exist in me, and I know I'm doing it, and I have a choice in the moment. Like I can say, this is a fear and it's reverberating in me, and I'm trying to avoid it. And to heal, I can step into that and once again be the adult who says, you know what? You are safe. Everything's going to be okay. But in those moments, I was listening to that little kid when I said,
Mhm.
hey, let's go to the spa on Friday. Like this little lie that I was telling myself. And, I'm kind of, I am speaking to the monsters right now. You asked me about the monsters. I'm talking
Mhm.
about, that the safety, the lack of safety that was put in me when people I really trusted, all of a sudden I'm giving a priest a blowjob and then he's raping me. And that
Mm.
slow process of grooming, which is super easy for me to talk about right now. Like that is
Mhm.
out of my system. I've done the snot
Sure.
crying. I've done the right 1,000 times. Monsignor Hobel is a fucking cunt. I'm going to kill him. I went
Sure.
to his grave and visited, and I thought I was going to piss all over his grave. And by that time, I just looked at it, and it was this nondescript grave. No one had ever put flowers on it. It was like, I don't feel anything for this guy. And like I
Mhm.
did that work. I went into the rooms where I was abused, and then spent 4 or 5 years processing that intensity. But now the impact is all of these subtle things that happen every day in my life where I'm avoiding or justifying, stepping into my own creativity or my own potential, or taking the opportunity to feel those
Mhm.
impacts of not being safe. Because,
Mhm.
Sister Ruth, or the people that I didn't feel safe as a kid. I went from living in this imaginary place where everything was an opportunity for play and creativity to very quickly, like within a 6-month period of grooming, to where I felt really special as an altar boy. And then around any corner, something horrible could happen to me. And so the world went from a super fun to a super unsafe place. And almost 50 years later, I still feel unsafe. You know?
Wow.
And I feel unsafe. I have social anxieties.
I do too.
And I avoid things. And even though I sometimes I step into them and I'm like, wow, that wasn't bad at all. Actually, that was fun. I should do that more often. I still believe that lie, because that little child's voice inside of me still has control, in a way, impact.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you think about it too, like you said, you like the word imprint, but it really does put that imprint in you, that even if somebody's, you talked about grooming. Well, part of the grooming is making you feel special, making you feel loved, maybe giving you some gifts. So that is something that will put off my little spidey sense or whatever if somebody is being real